Hi everyone, welcome to Wisdom Blogs. My name's Lisa Collins and today my very special guest is Bridget Finklaire. And I met Bridget probably about 13-14 years ago now, as we were both on our spiritual journeys. And I'm so pleased to invite Bridget back. We've spoken before, but we have so much to catch up on. But it's in particular relation to a blog that Bridget wrote about the menopause. So before we go into that, I just want to give you a bit of background about Bridget and her amazing experience. Bridget is an author and a spiritual teacher. She's a qualified psychotherapist and hypnotherapist and spent over 25 years in spiritual development and 18 years as a therapist. And 3 of those was in a very successful practice that Bridget had in Harley Street. Bridget created the Bone Circle in 2018, which is designed to help people understand who they are, what they've come here to do, and how to create what they love. And it's a weaving together really of all of Bridget's spiritual practices and her professional journeys. So it's a beautiful combination of all of that work and wisdom that she offers out to the world. And I'm really pleased to announce that Bridget has written her first book called Red Dress, which is to be published this year, which is a huge congratulations for doing that. It's an amazing achievement. I've been lucky enough to read the first 3 chapters and I absolutely love it. And I can't wait until it's published and to read the follow-up books that are coming afterwards. So yeah, that's an amazing achievement. So thank you so much for joining me today. And I wanted to talk to you about your blog that you did on the menopause.
First of all, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here. Lovely to see you again. And thank you for the invitation.
Pleasure.
And I can't wait for you to read the book either. I think you're going to love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, menopause.
Well, the thing that kind of caught my eye in particular is, I'm going to mention a dirty word, the menopause. So that was kind of like, and also, you know, I'm coming to the age now of going through the menopause. I think I've been in denial of it for so many years. I've always had an excuse of why my hair's fallen out or why I've been putting on weight. And I think I'm finally having the realization of I'm starting to go through this period in my life. And from my point of view, there's no mentors out there who are really speaking about this. We've lost that connection to our female ancestry. Oh, I certainly have. And within my peer group, we don't have that female wisdom that's passing on this information and knowledge. And, you know, I feel that we're getting information from either male doctors or, you know, GPs who are 23, bless them. I mean, I've grown up around doctors for 30 years. It's no criticism, but I feel we're going to people for advice who have no experience. They have theoretical knowledge, but no experience. So I'm handing over to you for your beautiful wisdom, because I love the blog and I'm going to link it below to share with us, you know, what your insights are on this.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, I think I wrote the blog I think it's about 5 years ago now. Actually just reread it before doing this. And actually, that's not bad, you know, so I was quite surprised. I think there are more and more in that last 5 years, women who are starting to talk about all of these issues that you've raised. There are 1 or 2 older women who are doing blogs for menopausal women, doctors who are looking at this more seriously. So I think it's something that's just burgeoning now, just budding and opening up now. But certainly even 5 years ago, there wasn't so much. So I do think things are shifting and changing. And this is a reflection of the shifting and changing consciousness in the world as the divine feminine comes back and as people awaken and as women are really stepping up. Somebody sent me a video the other day while the whole COVID thing's been on last year. It just showed all these women prime ministers across the world. So I think the rise of the feminine is here. And I think we'll start to see things shift, but we haven't quite got there yet, I agree. I'm lucky that I live in South Africa and we don't have NHS. So we have to have private health. And that means you can actually choose who you want to go and see. So although you'll see in the blog, I initially went to see a male doctor because that happened to be my doctor who was my GP round the corner from where I lived. Eventually I found brilliant gynecologist actually, who was older and had been through the menopause, and she was wonderful, and I worked with her, and I highly recommend that. But I think you're absolutely right in what's happened is, for a start off, we've been living in a patriarchal world. So it's all about the male way of doing things. And we're dealing with male doctors in a male-oriented healthcare system, which looks at you as if you're a machine rather than a holistic person, and says, oh, you know, that's out. Oh, your hormones are out. We'll just add that one in, you know, to bring up the levels. But that's not how your body works. So that's part of it. And I also think that the way that the modern world is, we've disconnected from the elders, haven't we? Like, you know, even living in Africa, you see that in the townships, that all of the generations are there. So, you know, the young ones and there's maybe 4 generations in a township, and they're all there together. So you've got the wisdom of your mother or your grandmother or your aunt or your great aunt, and all these women that went before you, and all the storytelling that goes with it. And we've lost that connection because we've gone into the modern world. There's a wonderful book by Maureen Murdoch. It's quite old now. I think she wrote it in 1980 something. I don't know if you've read it. The Heroines.
No, but when I read the blog, I wrote the name down, so it's on my Google list of having a look at that afterwards. Yeah.
The Heroine's Journey by Maureen Murdoch, and she talks about how the women have disconnected. There's a mother-daughter wound. So what we do is we reject the feminine. It's not just our personal mother. We reject the whole thing of motherhood and mothering, which isn't just about having children. It's about nurturing. It's about nurturing the land and nurturing ourselves and nurturing society, and women work together in sisterhood. You know, we multitask, we think about everybody. When we make a decision, we think about how that decision impacts everybody else.
Why have we disconnected? What's her theory, or you know, her reasoning behind that?
Yeah, I'm kind of going off track, but it's still wise, so let's go for it. But so it started off because she had read and studied Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey, and she actually got to meet Joseph Campbell, and she said to him, well, what about women? And he said, oh, no, women don't go on the hero's journey. The hero's journey is for men. It's for men to go off to prove themselves, you know, to get the golden calf or whatever it is, or, you know, Odysseus to come back to Penelope, and he's got to go off on his adventure to prove himself. And then he comes back, and then the boon or the treasure at the end of that adventure is the woman. And she goes, well, that doesn't work for modern women. Modern women don't want to be just sitting around doing tapestry, waiting for their man to come back from an adventure. It doesn't work. There's got to be something for women. So that's what started her off, and that's what made her write the book. And the heroine's journey is really fascinating. And I think for anyone who's approaching menopause, perimenopause, or going through menopause, or in menopause, or coming out, fabulous book, even for younger women as well, because she maps this heroine's journey, and it's much more of an internal journey. The hero's journey is the external journey. It's going for what you want. Going on that adventure, facing all your demons and all of that. But the heroine's journey is that the reason we disconnect and reject the feminine is because we see it as weak in the modern world, because we're living in a patriarchal world. So what we don't, when we're 18, 19, 20, we don't want to cook and clean and sew and garden and look after communities, and we don't want to do that. We want to have a career. We want to have a career and earn money and be something in the world. And to have a career and earn something, earn money, be something in the world, we need to step into the hero's journey and step into the masculine journey. And if you look at women in business, they've often got sort of very short, sleek hair, and you know, they've got the suit, and they're very much emulating the masculine. And even in terms of man management in women CEOs, women prime ministers, they very much emulate the masculine model, and they're really great. They're really successful. I mean, women have broken the glass ceiling in many instances. Phenomenal women do phenomenal things. That even manage to have fantastic careers and look after children and look after their husband and I mean, they're incredible. But what happens is they become successful and take that hero's journey. They face their demons. They do the whole thing, and they become successful. And then they awaken to feelings of aridity. They feel dry. They feel empty. They don't really feel that fulfillment. They go, well, I've got here and it's been a struggle, but I'm not really, something's wrong here.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the beginning of the heroine's journey, because then you go down and the journey is within. So you go within, and some women actually don't want to socialize in that time, and they just don't feel like going out. They don't feel like seeing people. They don't feel like going to work and, you know, all the rest of it. They want to go within and be more reflective and look within themselves. And they're going down to the goddess, and the goddess can be dark and feisty. You know, there's a lot about women that can be very feisty and not pretty, you know, but it's about facing all of that and going down within the self and fight and reconnecting back with what it is to be a woman. Because a woman is incredible. We carry life. We carry life inside our bellies. We can grow another being inside our belly. Most doulas are women. Most people who are midwives or look after children are women. I'm not saying men don't do it, but it's mostly women. And I'm not saying men don't carry the divine feminine, they do, but we are natural carriers of it. And we carry life. And also often women know how to deal with death as well. And there's death doulas. So we are the nurturers, and we carry life. And so we reconnect with that, and we go, oh, wow, I really want to start doing some of these other things. I want to have children, or I want to be nurturing, or I want to be in the garden planting things. I want to create things. I want to paint or sew or whatever it is. It doesn't even have to be that. It can be anything. You just want to really reconnect with that intuition and our creative spirit. And it's about healing the mother-daughter wound. And then getting the masculine and the feminine in balance, and healing the wounded masculine, and then you balancing the male and female, which is really what you want, and then you're coming back to the top of that circle. So that's a really good thing to do in menopause, and I think it's reconnecting with who we are as women and what our values are, which society sometimes goes, that's not of any value. But actually, you know, if nobody cleaned and nobody cooked and nobody looked after any children, and nobody looked after the planet, you know, we'd be in a real mess. A lot of the masculine society is about competition, competing with somebody else. It's about acquiring things. And women aren't like that. You know, women can get together and talk and share and support each other and help each other. And that's a very beautiful way to go. And I think that's coming back. This is what we need to grow, actually, as women.
Yeah.
And so sorry, I've gone off track from the menopause, but menopause to me is we do need to get back in touch with who we are as women and with our rhythms and cycles, because women are cyclical. Women, we have periods and we're cyclical, and we have these rhythms and cycles, and we have emotions, and we feel those emotions, and it's actually really healthy to feel those emotions. As a therapist, you deal with people who try to tuck those emotions away, and now there's a problem. And I think a lot of the time there's a reason that people have chronic disease, for example. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the world now. We've got, you know, 5G and Wi-Fi and electronics, and we work very hard, and we've got things in our food and preservatives. There's lots of things that cause an illness, but one of them, I think, is that we've been trained to not show our emotions. Like something terrible happening, oh no, we just thought it's okay. It's not okay. And I think we need to process those things. So I think it is about reconnecting with what it is to be a woman, and with those elders who've been through it. And really, almost, we need to harken back to more traditional societies and to our society in years gone by, but not forget the equalities and the rights. The fact that a woman has a right to go out and do what she wants to do, but let's just reconnect back with our bodies, because I really believe that we do have these three phases of our life. We have the maiden, where we've got all the energy in the world, and we look fantastic, and, you know, we're out there partying and doing what we're going to do, or getting on the career rung. We've got the motherhood, where even if we don't have children, we may be nurturing in some way. We might be looking after a sick relative or something, but we weren't nurturing in some way. The mother, who's looking after everybody's needs but her own. And then and wondering when who she is anymore. And then you've got the crone. Now, interesting, because the crone means crown, and for me the crown is sovereign. It's about you being in your sovereignty, you being in your authority, you standing in your own divine feminine power. so interesting because we're going through coronavirus, and corona means crown, and this is the higher crown, not the lower crown of corona, but of coronavirus, but the higher crown. And we think about the crown chakra opening. In Hebrew, the tree of life is at the top is the Keter, which is the crown. So it really is the opening of that crown into these wisdom years. But to go through into those wisdom years, there's another hero's journey and a heroine's journey, because it's a rite of passage. So the menopause is a rite of passage into those wisdom years. And it sort of says in the blog that a lot of women shun that journey because it's too difficult. So, you know, oh no, I'm getting depressed, or I'm getting hot flushes, or I'm putting on loads of weight, or I'm getting these things here, you know, my face is, I'm gone grey, you know, and all of these things, my eyesight's not so good. And they don't want to embrace that because our society values youth, doesn't it? And so we want to hold on to youth. And if you look, there's so many ads out there for makeup or facelift, or this will help you get rid of your wrinkles, or you need to go on this diet, or you need to do keto, or you need to do high impact, whatever it is, because that's the only way you're going to lose your belly fat. And it's all about trying to preserve youth. And so I think a lot of women get caught up in that because it's advertised. They want to preserve their youth, and the easiest way to do that is go on hormone replacement of some kind. And then you get women who go, oh, well, I'm on natural hormone replacement. You know, it's bioidentical. You're still replacing your hormones. And I'm super sensitive to hormones. I actually can't take them. I couldn't take the pill, and I couldn't do any hormones. So I didn't have the option anyway. I do think everybody, the one thing we've lost is that everybody's an individual, and we will have completely different experiences. We have different experiences of puberty, different experiences of pregnancy, different experiences of childbirth, of motherhood, of career. And so you don't have one size fits all. Some women sail through menopause. Some people struggle terribly. And you have to, goes back to the other talk we did about intuition. You have to kind of follow your own intuitive knowing about what's right for you. But I think that if you can stick with accepting what you're going through as a cycle of life, and be with the cyclical nature even of the menopause, because sometimes you feel great and sometimes you feel terrible, then it's easier to move through it. And certainly the other side of it, you come out with such wisdom, because you have to get to a point where you don't care about what anybody else thinks anymore. You know, you battle with yourself. And I think anything that you haven't really dealt with already is going to come up. And I think that's why some people have it tough, because they haven't dealt with anything, and then it's all going to.
Yeah, I wondered that. And one of the questions I was going to say to you about that actually would ask was, you talked about the internal hero's journey. Do you think that, if the women have not done that internal hero's journey, that it comes crashing down in menopause, and that's why they really struggle? Do you think the women who've dealt with the internal journey all the way along in a healthy way sail through it a bit easier? What's your views on that?
It's a really interesting question, and I'm sure that it is a factor to play. But I also think there's genetics in this. I know people who didn't even have a hot flush. They haven't necessarily dealt with all their stuff. There's a genetic thing. It's like, you know, some of us are short and some of us are tall, and some of us are, I've got a friend who's skinny. I said to her, your metabolism is enviable. She's in her 70s. How do you keep so slim? You eat so much. She said, I don't know. I lost 8 kilos when I went through menopause. And it's like, what? Most women put weight on. It's just a genetic thing. And I think you have to kind of go through a mourning. It's like going through a loss of yourself. You don't know who you are anymore. You had this whole idea of who you were. And I think women are very bad at identifying with how they look and what clothes they wear and what makeup they've got and what their hair's like. And we do that because we like dressing up because we're girly. And that's good. That's not a bad thing. But we identify with that. And then your figure starts to change. Either you lose weight and you get very skinny, or you put on weight and you get fat, or you get this sort of the bingo wings, you know, or you get these things, and you know, your body shape changes and your body changes, and some people freak out about that, so they go on their HRT. But actually, it's a real learning curve. You can go through the depths of sorrow with it, because what you're doing is saying goodbye to a friend. You're mourning the loss of your younger self, your youthful self, which was so prized. And I think this is where that you know, youth is wasted on the young thing comes from, because you can look back and I look back at pictures of myself, you know, even in my 40s and even when I was 50, look back and I think, I thought I was fat,
Yeah.
or I thought I looked old. I look amazing. I wish I looked like that now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've had the same feeling as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And you look back and you go, oh my God, I know I worried about that extra half an ounce I put on, and I would control myself, control what I ate and make sure I went to the gym in order to always fit into that size, whatever the size was that you fit into. So that I always looked like a flipping fashion plate. And, actually, I know all the time I was thinking, oh, my thighs are a bit big, or my, whatever, my waist's a bit big, whatever. And we've all got different things. And when you look back, you think, oh my God, you were gorgeous. What were you worried about? And we don't get that until later. So I really think that there's this wisdom that goes with the menopause. And I think when I wrote the blog and looking back on it, I think the blog is pretty good. But 5 years later, when I'm now through the other side, there's more. And one of the things that I had to learn, and it's always hard learnings, and even if you have done that internal heroine's journey, or you have worked on yourself, what happens is it comes back to hit you in the face, because there's another layer that you hadn't looked at before. So you've gone, oh, well, I've dealt with all my demons around my weight, or I've dealt with all my demons around the men I choose, or my relationship with my father, or my brother, or whatever it is, or my career, or I didn't do the university course, or whatever the thing is that you've done. You go, I've dealt with that. And then the menopause comes and you go, oh, okay, there's another layer. Oh, okay. And it comes up like this. And when it comes up, you can go into a real sadness or a depression. You can feel, ooh. And you've got to realize that this too shall pass. It's like a wave. It's like the Buddhists say, don't get attached to those things, because they're like waves in the sea. So don't get attached to feeling really good when you're feeling really good, because it will pass. And don't try to avoid feeling bad, because actually what happens is normally a learning or an understanding, and it's bringing something up. I mean, I think Eckhart Tolle talks about that with the pain body, and he talks about actually when women have PMT, it's an opportunity for to heal something in the pain body. And I feel the same. It's like having PMT badly, but you're up and down with it, so it goes and comes and it goes. And one of the things I had to learn, so I had to mourn my former self. I had to come to terms with the fact my hair had gone grey. I mean, I could dye it. I would look okay. And I had to come to terms with the fact that I'd put on weight. I could take HRT and lose that weight. But I just had to know, this is my shape, and I eat really healthily. And I think for me now, my most important focus now is health. Health and well-being is more important than how I look. And the beauty within, and the love that we share with others, and relationship with nature, relationship with children, dogs, animals, the sea, the ocean, your partner, your friends, other women, relationships, how you feel inside, and the beauty of the journey inside that shines forth, and being healthy and well, so important. So you mourn the old self, and then what happens is, the next bit that I said, there's an extra bit I want to talk about, and it's this, that progesterone and estrogen are playing constantly a seesaw game in a woman's life. And that's why you get PMT, actually, because they're switching over, the seesaw's switching over. And so this is why we're cyclical beings, and we don't listen to that. We just carry on doing the same thing every day. Men can do that because they're not cyclical. Women can't. We have times when we just need to have a duvet day, or we need to just kind of we just need to go, I'm too tired today to do this, I'm not going to do it today. And so to start to listen to your own rhythm, and that cycle carries on after menopause. So that last period was about 7 years ago or something, and my husband will say, oh, you're having a virtual period. He would know, because I feel a bit miserable, I feel fat, and I haven't got any energy, and I'll get a migraine, and oh, I won't get focused today. And he'll go, it's okay, you're just having a virtual period. And he's right. 3 days later, I'm fine. So that cyclical nature is there. Now, the progesterone and the estrogen, they protect women against stress, and the stress hormones.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, so then when you start to go into perimenopause, obviously that seesaw's going a bit wobbly because the progesterone's going down. Then progesterone tries to keep jumping up, you know, because it's going down, and that keeps bumping around estrogen. No, sorry, the other way. Progesterone's trying to bump itself up because it's still trying to have babies, and estrogen's wobbling. And so that's the perimenopause. And then you get into menopause and the estrogen's going down and down and down and down. And so that whole balance, this lovely balancing act between these two hormones, goes out of whack. And really that's why we go through menopause. But what I didn't know until recently was that that balancing act between estrogen and progesterone protect you from stress. So when you're going through perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause, especially postmenopause, you don't have any estrogen unless you're taking supplements or you're doing, you know, HRT. You don't have, you know, my estrogen now is low, and on the, if you have a blood test, it comes back, it says ovarian failure. And so you're not protected from stress.
So it's like you've got no buffer. It's like you've got no stress buffer.
No buffer. That's absolutely correct. And so what happened with me is I started burning out, and I'm thinking, and I kept going to doctors, and they kept going, you're burning out. And I go, but I can't be burning out. I mean, I'm married to the man I love. I'm living in this fabulous house by the ocean in South Africa. I'm a writer. I don't even have to get up and do 9 to 5. You know, I can choose when I want to work. I'm doing spiritual work. I love my life. It's not like living in London, you know, and being a therapist and looking after 2 children. This is nothing. And none of them were able to say, they kept going, whoa, you're really stressed. None of them were able to pinpoint why. And the reason was that I didn't factor in, I don't have that buffer anymore. So I carried on like I would have done in my 30s and 40s and built a house and wrote a book and did all these things. And what happened is my cortisol went sky high. And so I think, because I think this is the thing, I don't know if this rings with you, but I think a lot of women in their, say, 40s, 50s, they look at their mums or their grandmums and they go, I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to let myself go. I've been doing yoga, and I walk and I exercise and I eat my organic veggies, and, you know, I'm vegan or whatever it is, and I don't eat cheese and I don't eat bread. And, you know, you've got this notion that you're not going to be like your mum was, or your granny was. You're going to still be youthful and full of energy and vibrancy and vitality. And you're going to have more energy, and you're going to be fine, and you're just going to keep going. And what happens is your body just goes, no. And so you set off thinking, well, I'm going to carry on doing yoga, and I'm going to carry on walking up a mountain, and I'm going to be fit, and I'm going to be playing tennis into my 80s, and I'm going to run a business and write a book and build a house, and I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to do what my mum did. I'm not going to get flabby and old and sit there in a chair. And actually, there's a biology factor here.
Oh,
and yes,
God.
you can live a full life. You can have energy and vibrancy, vitality. You can do these things. Of course you can. But I think what I had to come to terms with is I've got my mum's arms, you know, and I have got grey hair, and I can't do what I used to do. I have to do things a little bit slower. And
acceptance then, isn't it? It feels like acceptance.
Everything is acceptance. It's about saying, I think I loved your sweet spot you talked about in a previous conversation that we had. Sweet spot for me is just everything in life. Everything has a sweet spot. There's always extremes, but the middle way is the proper way. The sweet spot is what you want. And it's the same with menopause. You don't want to let yourself completely go and, you know, be old battle axe who sits there doing nothing. And also you don't want to try to still be Barbie you know, at the gym. You want to find that sweet spot where you still feel good about yourself. There's still a youthful vitality within you, but you're mindful, and you don't sort of go, oh, well, I can't do anything anymore. I can't do yoga anymore. I'm old. You don't do that. You still do yoga, but maybe you don't push yourself too hard, you know. And so I think it's important for women to realize that sometimes in our heads, we've got an idea of how menopause isn't going to affect us. We're just going to be, you know, we're going to just be one of those amazing women that goes through. And guess what? Some women are amazing and just go through, and that's fantastic. But if you're not one of those women who's amazing and loses 8 kilos and carries on playing tennis and carries on with this incredible life, don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, it almost feels like about having no expectations, but your inner compass aligned with health and well-being. And I love what you said in the blog as well about keeping your spine flexible? Because I've been thinking about that for quite some years, actually, because a friend of mine's a yoga teacher and I trained in yoga. And the one thing that I always feel has kept her youthful, even though she has aged and she's gone through the menopause, is her spine. So yeah, so it does feel like it's, yeah, acceptance, have no expectations. I think the mother thing is really important, because absolutely I've got that. I'm not going to end up like my mum. But you're right, there's a middle ground, and it feels like the middle ground is aligned with the compass that heads due north to health and well-being. I guess if you've always got that, then you just accept the way that your body's changing and the way that your hormones. And I loved what you said as well about, because this is the information that we need to know as women. I didn't realize that when those hormones go, that they were the stress buffer. So if you know that in advance, then if you've grown up in the masculine way, you know, which I had that masculine career, and I've always, you know, I always had those sort of issues of the women who got on in the NHS eventually started looking more like men and behaving more like men. But I guess if you got that strategist mind and you understand that's what's happening, and I do have that logical part of my mind, then you can prepare for that by reducing the stress where you can and trying to make your life more not comfortable, but in tune with who you really are, and letting go of it quicker. So not having the argument with yourself of, why can't I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do yoga and go for a run and blah, 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 blah. You know, having that, you know what, I don't have the energy and it's okay. And I've got to let that go. And what can I do? And is it maybe 10 minutes of stretching my spine in the morning? And that's also okay.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. That I love what you said about the inner compass of the true north being health, is absolutely listening at long last to your own intuitive knowing and getting back in touch with your body and listening to the body rather than pushing. Because that's what you do when you're younger. You push through, you push yourself, you know, you push, no pain, no gain. Yeah. The menopause is opposite to that. I think yoga is fabulous. I mean, but the problem is that sometimes yoga becomes, you know, speed yoga or hot yoga and all of this. Yes. If you go back to yoga, I also taught yoga, a thing called Truth Yoga, which was taking yoga back to its original roots. And if you go back to really proper yoga, the breath and the posture and the meditation and the yoga nidra and the shavasana and all of those things, it's a great thing. And also Tai Chi, I think, is also good, and Qigong. They're really great things to take you through your age. And I absolutely agree with your friend, you know, is with what you said about your friend and the flexibility. The spine is hugely important. If you can keep your spine flexible, and also remember that you can get osteoporosis as you get older, which is weight-bearing exercise. So anything like yoga and walking are fabulous, because they're both weight-bearing exercise and they're not taxing you and creating more cortisol. If you go for a walk in nature, you'll relax and you're letting go of stress, because you're walking in nature and connected to it, and you're thinking, and you can think things through. And the same with yoga, if it's the breath and you're just not pushing yourself. So maybe instead of doing handstands and, you know, very complicated advanced postures, you go, I'm just going to do, you know, the more simple postures. I'm just going to do a gentle downward dog or whatever, and you just ease into that posture and go with it. But yeah, I think that keeping the spine flexible and keeping the body moving is more important than trying to battle against things and push yourself through regimes that are too harsh for you. And I think the mind is the other one, to keep your mind going and keep your mind flexible as well. In whichever way you like, it doesn't matter what it is, you choose what you love. I think it's a time in menopause where you don't have to think about your career and your friends and your boyfriend and trying to find a boyfriend or getting married or traveling or all the things you think of in youth. And nor do you have to think about your children and your husband and the household. It's a time where you can actually be selfish. Yes. So you can go within and follow that inner compass and your own intuitive knowing. To keep your mind active and keep your body active, keep it moving, keep the spine moving. Gentle yoga with some nice aromatherapy candles and a beautiful piece of music. I've always had these lovely bits of Indian music, which I adore. And I put those on and I just slowly start the stretching, and you feel good at the end of it. I remember a yoga teacher that I worked with ages ago said, when I want you to feel like you're having a warm bath while you're doing yoga.
Oh, yes. I know what that feels like. And I totally agree with you about the yoga thing. Most people think of yoga as, you know, Western gym yoga, you know, and it's not, and the yoga that I'm talking about, like you, is that traditional yoga, which is, it's very, very different, isn't it, than kind of tying yourself up into pretzel knots. You know, I left that a long time ago. And you're absolutely right. When I really get into it, that gentle yoga, it is feeling like you're having that really beautiful warm bath. Or another friend of mine, you know, she describes it as having an orgasm. I haven't quite got to the state of having orgasmic yoga, but
go for it, couldn't we?
But it is that beautiful feeling that kind of that washes over you when you know, just allow your body to just find the posture that it wants to relax in. And my spine loves the stretch. I remember a yoga teacher years ago when we were in Australia, I did a session in the rainforest, and he just said, your spine loves to stretch, you know. And those words always stayed with me, you know, of my spine loves to stretch, and good to my spine and to stretch it. And I loved as well the way that you wrapped up the blog with this too will pass, and that felt such a powerful punch at the end of, regardless of what you're going through, this too shall pass, you know. And I think it's a beautiful way.
Yeah, it will. I myself am just coming out now from, you know, and everybody's menopause is different. As I said, some people it's a few weeks, few months, few years. And I kind of had 2 years of full-on hot flushes and menopause, and then it comes out, and I'm still not 100%. I don't think, you know, one person, I remember somebody saying, menopause never ends, you know. You just, you know, your period stops and the thing carries on forever. But I know that a friend of mine who went through menopause about the same time, and myself, just this year now, I've suddenly got more energy back. You know, it felt at one point like I'd never have any energy back again. I'd never be able to do anything. But you do get through it. You will pass through it, and you will get the other side, and you will be able to focus again. The fuzzy thinking goes, the flushes kind of go. You got energy and you've got focus. Here I am writing a book, launching a book, doing all kinds of things in the world now. I've got energy to do it. That's the first thing. So that part will pass, and you will have energy and vibrancy and vitality and a new lease of life. And it's a time in your life where you can really do what you want to do and share your wisdom, because that's, other people need that wisdom. We're here in service to humanity. We've all got our part to play. And the other thing, my mother used to say, she used to complain to her mother about how much weight she put on. And my grandmother used to say, don't worry, you'll lose it all when you're 70. So and she did. She lost it when she said, so I'm just kidding you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to wait till I'm 70. And you see a lot of sprightly old ladies who are doing fabulous things, traveling, going places, you know, not so much now with COVID, but people are doing things in their later years that they always wanted to do, and now's the time to do them.
So is your recommendation
and start living?
So is your recommendation then to keep hold of the clothes, and then eventually 20 years later you'll fit back into them?
Well, I'll come back into fashion by then.
Exactly. Oh, it's been so lovely talking with you. Is there one thing that you'd like to share, one final piece of wisdom that you'd like to share with women, either, you know, who are years ahead of their menopause, or in the perimenopause or the menopause? Is there one piece of wisdom that you'd like to share with women?
Don't be afraid of it. Just move through it at your own pace with that inner compass, and just focus on health and well-being. Health and well-being. And by well-being, I mean mental, emotional well-being as well as physical well-being. Don't try. I think too many women battle against. It's demons. You know, their own demons. They battle against. I'm going grey, I'm putting on weight, I'm slowing down, the libido's not as good. And they start to worry about all those things. But much better to face those fears. And, you know, if your libido comes down, which it does in menopause, chat to your husband about it, you know, be open and talk about it. And I think actually menopause is probably something that would benefit from a group of women all going through it. You know, when you have babies and you have a your
Yeah.
NCT group, and everybody's going through the same thing, and they go, my baby's not sleeping, and they go, no, nor is mine, and you've got that support group, you're all going through the same thing. I think menopause is one of those. We should probably start setting up
It's a good idea.
little groups of women who are going through menopause, so they can all go, I'm having these terrible hot flushes and they're waking me up at night and I can't wake, and you can actually talk to somebody about it who gets it. But don't fret. Trust your own body, trust your own mind, trust yourself that you can move through it.
Yeah, because the image I had in my mind then when you were talking about that, it's like you're fighting against this tide. You know, you're never going to win. You can't fight against it because it's a natural part of who we are. And I guess, you know, the sooner there's that acceptance, then there's something important in that whether that may help your journey flow a little bit easier, but it does feel we could potentially throw a lot of energy at this shore, at this water coming up as we're trying to fight the water, when it's just a waste of energy, when we could actually be directing that to something that's a bit more meaningful and actually helpful in our lives.
Absolutely, I love that metaphor. It's absolutely true. You're trying to push back the wave, and it's a lot of effort to push back a wave, and rather just accept what you can. Accept it, but don't give up. You know, there is, again, sweet spot. You're accepting what is, but you're not giving up. You're still going to live your life and do what you love.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful speaking with you today. And if you guys like what we talked about today, please subscribe and share with other women who you think would find this really interesting and useful. And thank you so much. And I will speak to you again very soon. There's so much more that we have to talk about, so we'll get you back and talk again soon.
Lisa, thank you. It's been my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you.
And you take care.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.